today I'm doing things a little bit different. I've seen a few people do it, like Dirty Giants, Hidden Instinct, Eric Chesser, and it's kind of like even Zach Griffith's hit list. But I'm gonna start this thing called Shed Chronicles, and I want to go around interview people that I look up to and I think that find some awesome sheds. And so I'm gonna start this thing, and right now is gonna be the introduction. I'm kind of just winging it. I mean, I'm in sweats and stuff, but I had the idea and I just want to start it up, and then I'm going to start interviewing people and going through their sheds, or if they have animals, I want to have them tell stories of their animals and why they do the things they do and why they're passionate about the outdoors and so on and so forth. But I think this is going to be a real cool little series that I want to do. Hopefully it turns out the way I want it. But I'm going to start it off right now. So, I mean, I have shed hunted, I think for 6 years now. And I mean, growing up, I was always in the hills. We always went hunting and stuff like that. And we always found sheds. But I never really paid attention to them. But in 2012, my buddy Cam and I, we were working out in Wyoming. And he had already been shed hunting and, you know, had a purpose to go shed hunting. And he asked me, he's like, dude, we're in some great country. Let's go shed hunting. And I was like, shed hunting? He's all, yeah, let's go find antlers off deer, elk, and moose. I was like, they do that? You know, like every year? Like, I honestly didn't know that they shed every year. Dumb, but I really didn't know. And he's all, yeah, let's go take a hike. And so I was all about it. And this was my very first shed that I ever picked up that, you know, I had a purpose to go out and find sheds, and this is it. This is my very first shed that I ever had a purpose to go out and find, and it's a dink, but it means something to me because it lit a passion. Actually, the thing that lit the passion are these guys. So, let me go back. I found that shed maybe 30 seconds into the hike. We literally went down into this wash, came back up, and it was sitting right there. And I lost my mind. I thought it was all cool. And then literally 100 yards later, I found these browns. And it is seriously the most dark colored horns I've ever found. And they were sitting on top of each other just like this. And I lost my mind. I was just, whoa, you know, just freaking out. And so this was my very first set I had ever found, and it was maybe 2 minutes into the hike, and there was blood. There's still a little bit. I don't know if you can tell, but there was blood on the bases. But this honestly started the passion of going shed hunting, and I think we ended up finding, like 30-something sheds that day, and it lit a fire in me. And so that was a cool little set, and during the same hike, I ended up finding some whitetail sheds as well. This being the biggest whitetail shed that I found. Awesome little eye guard, and then how he sits, like he would almost be touching. So I thought that was an awesome experience. Like, found mule deer sheds, and then I found whitetail sheds. We even found elk in the same hike. And so that just lit the passion and lit the fire. So this was my very first actual, like, real mature deer shed. This was in northern Utah, and I was out with my buddy Tyler, and we had no idea what we were doing in the area. We just got out and we started hiking. But great buck, love his eye guard. It's like 4 inches long and just tall G2. He stands probably like 18 inches right here, and just a solid buck. He'd be, you know, if matched up, he'd be right near high 170s, 180 class buck. So when I found this guy, I was on cloud 9 basically. And our dinner's done. So we're going to have to get that out of the oven before it burns. But yep, that was my first real mature big buck shed that I was stoked on. All right, sorry, we took a little break, had some dinner. Next shed is this freak. This thing is just dirty. That's all I can say about it. He's broke off right here. I don't even know what he would have done. He probably even sprouted another beam. I have no idea. But The thing is crazy. The base on that, I've never seen anything like that. And he even has a little hole where you can see down in there. And so this was one of my cooler freak finds. Just it's crazy. Just the mass on that, I think around the base is 8.5, 9 inches. So just freak buck. This is one of my better 3-points I've ever found. Just awesome front fork, and I love his G2 back there, just wavy, and he's just a cool buck, just pretty decent mass, and obviously it's a brownie, so I was stoked on that. I found that in Nevada with my buddy Damien, and it's just a stud 3. This is probably my biggest 3-point I've ever found, just real boxy buck. And I love that he's just kind of different. Just has his one main beam and then splits in the back. Cool eye guard, just great mass. And he has his thick ridge right through here. And I was stoked when I found this thing. It was in an area I had hit once before and done real well. Went back and this guy was just laying there. So, just stud 3. Real cool. Never been able to match him up. I've gone on plenty of hikes to try to match him up, but never did get it done. Still out there probably getting white. This shed, my birthday shed. I call it the birthday brownie. This thing is out in Nevada and just unreal base. He is just so crazy back there. Almost double eye guard right here. Just splits off different ways. Just a solid buck. It's like 83 inches with all his mass. And I mean, he has short G3, great front fork though, but just his mass. He even has blood on the base, and that was found 2 years ago in February. And just February 3rd, my birthday. But just a stud buck. I love him. He's just, it was actually one of 2 sheds I found that whole trip. But I'll take this all day. Just crazy character. I love bucks like that. Just character is some of my favorite. This shed right here is my very first shed I ever found with a cheater. And just, I wish his back matched his front. Just short, dinky G2, but his G3 with that kicker, his G4 is just crazy. I mean, just a stud buck. I wish he was,
Scoot over to your left so I can see you better.
All right. This way?
Yeah, perfect.
There you go. But I just wish he just matched back here. He'd just be an absolute... He's already a stud, but he'd be even more of a stud. I was so stoked when I found this because he was laying there, tines down like that, and this is the very first thing I saw, and I just lost my mind because I've never found a kicker buck. And, yeah, just a sweet buck. This buck was actually maybe 100 yards away from that. Found it in a different hike though. I was with my buddy Jerem, and funny story about this, I think I actually have it on video. This thing is just laying there, and Jerem was up in front of me, and he, blazed up the hill, and he sat down, and I get up to him, and we sit there and talk for like literally 2 minutes. And I went to go get something out of my backpack, and this thing is laying right behind us. And I lost my mind again, which I usually do over pretty much any shed I find, but just a solid buck, just awesome back end. And I mean, even his front is a little crabby, but he's a solid buck. He goes 82 inches, and he has a little dropper, and that's my very first dropper buck. It's a dink little dropper, but heck, I was so stoked to find him, and just boxy, like just a stud. I love him, and he's brown, so it made it that much better. So next shed, I found this guy out in Nevada. Unfortunately, I was getting him out of the truck. I dropped him and broke my heart. So he's taped up right here. And just another cool buck, just character, has little kickers in line, and great eye guard. He is ancient old. I mean, if you can see that, he is just chalky. and he has like sap and stuff on him because I found him underneath the tree, and just ancient, but he's still so intact for how old he is. It like blows my mind. I'm about to fall over, but yeah, just an awesome buck. Great character to him. This buck was actually found on the Wasatch Front, so if anybody recognizes this buck, he's just a stud, flat out stud. Just great forks. And this back here, just awesome character. I love the character, and he had a little piece broken off there. This buck goes 84 inches as is, and I mean, if you have trail cams of this buck, let me know. I'd love to see him on the hoof. And I mean, I found it last year, and it only looks like he's 2 years old, something like that. So, awesome Wasatch Front. This guy right here is, ooh, I was so stoked. We're at the cabin in Salina, and I'm hunting with my brothers. We see an awesome 3-point, and basically I played bird dog. They wanted me to go down and, you know, see if we could get the deer to move a little bit so it could get in the opening, and then my brothers could shoot it. And I just happened to be going over there, and this thing just steps out. I mean, didn't step out. I'm an idiot. But it was laying in the sagebrush, and I was coming across the top, and he was down below me, and I honestly thought it was sagebrush because it was tucked up in. And I just like, no, that's a little bit too weird. But we've never found anything like this up at our cabin. And he's just this freak. He's just so cool. Just kicker, just inline, just kicker, just the mass on him is crazy. I mean, he's just short and compact, but he still goes 83 inches. Like, he's just a cool character freak. I love this shed. It means a lot to me too, just because it's at something, I mean, at a place that is very special to me at our cabin. And my brothers and my dad was there, and even some other family members, and just a stud. This thing definitely made me lose my mind, and it was hard to keep quiet on the hunt. But yes, next shed is my biggest single I have ever found. This shed goes 90 inches broken, just real deep forks, and I mean, if he's broken right here, I guarantee he probably missed at least 5 inches, I want to say. Double eye guard, sweet kicker, bladed out everywhere, just on everything. Just a real freak shed. He would be a 200-inch buck, for sure, over 200. And Werby and I, well, that's who I found it with, was my buddy Hayden Werber. He thought he actually found the other side, but ended up finding a set off another buck, and I think he actually has 2 years off this buck as well. And he's put in so many miles and the time, and I think this guy's still out there somewhere unless somebody else picked it up. I mean, it is in an area that does get hit, but I love this thing. I've never found anything this big. It just blew my mind when I found it. And he was just laying there with a log on top. I didn't even see the kicker really until I picked it up, and just a flat out stud. So now I'm going to get to some sets that I found. I don't really find very many big deer sheds, but that's just because I'm more of an elk guy and I don't hike in areas where I find big deer. But this is a stud buck from Nevada. He's just real cool. He'd be a 170 class buck. Has a little kicker here, little thing there. Just great forks. Not so much for eye guards. Decent mass. I mean, he doesn't have that much mass, but still a great buck. The reason why he's yellow is I wanted to fix him up, and I haven't got around to it. And I put wood glue on him. I don't even know if that's the right thing to do with these. But yeah, just a cool, awesome buck. He's just a stud. That's all I can say about that. I was stoked when I found him. This buck was also found in northern Utah. I think he's honestly just an older buck. Maybe just regressed a little bit, because I don't know what happened to his left side. His right side's sweet. pretty cool G2. Doesn't really have the greatest mass, but he's a cool buck. Definitely was stoked. I was with my buddy Damien, Dylan, and Clint, and we had a stellar day. But this was one of the better finds, and just a sweet buck. I definitely need to do something with my sets, like either put them up on the wall or do something, but I'll figure it out. This buck was the very first buck I ever matched up that had kickers, and he's just a cool buck. I have nothing else to say about that. He's just real, he just has character. That's it. Just character, has sweet bases, just points coming out everywhere. He's just real cool. And actually, I found 3 other sheds to this buck and didn't even realize it, and I actually sold them, and I kicked myself in the butt for doing it. But yeah, I had another set and a single off of him, and I didn't even realize it because he had like stack cheaters on this side. He had stack cheaters on the other side as well, but just not as big. He was just kind of a character buck, but real cool buck. Can't complain with that guy at all. And then the big dog. This buck is nuts. He has like 42 inches of mass. Just freak. Just matching double eye guards. Look like that one melted off. Just, I mean, look at that. I mean, I can't even fit my hand all the way around him. He's just a massive buck. And I don't even know how he sat. Whether he sat wide, he sat tall. I have no idea. Just a character freak. Just way cool. Just webbed out. Mass everywhere. He has a little kicker here. Just one of my favorite sets or finds that I've ever found.